Okay, so because right now we're saving kit cooldowns only to memory, if the server restarts, we're gonna lose it. So to remember the cooldowns even after restart, we have to store it. For example, in the JSON file. So we're gonna make it like this. We're gonna save it to JSON file. All cooldowns we're gonna save to JSON file. So even after restart, they're not gonna won't be forgotten. So you can make a cooldowns even for 1 week, because it's gonna all be saved to file. So no matter if you restart your server to update it to new Unturned or something, it's not gonna be gone, and you can make a weekly cooldown or monthly cooldown kits. So I think that's cool. Okay, so we gotta make it. So I'm gonna start by adding JSON newtons of JSON.json library to our project. It's required to serialize and deserialize the JSON objects to JSON string. Okay, so we're gonna use the same version as Unturned does. So I'm again gonna get it from the Unturned files. So I go to Unturned files directory, and here in the Unturned data managed, I got all Unturned DLLs and libraries for it. So, and I got a newtons of JSON here. So I'm gonna get it from here. Now I'm gonna open my plugin directory, and in my libraries folder I'm gonna add this newtons of JSON. Okay, so now I got a newtons of JSON here, and I can add it to reference. So I'm gonna add a reference. I'm gonna go to my plugins directory, and in libraries I got my newtons of JSON DLL. Okay, so I add it and press OK. Okay, so now I got a JSON newtons of JSON. So now once I have it, next thing I'm gonna do, I need to so I want to save it to file. So I also need to create a file, and I made a class I use in all my plugins for this. So I always copy and paste it to my plugins, and I'm gonna share it with you. It's on my Gist profile. The data storage with markdown. So I'm gonna leave a link, and here I got a data storage. So I'm gonna copy this one. I'm not gonna be telling you what I can tell you what it does. So it basically takes the directory and the file name for the constructor, and it's got two methods. In one is to save object. As you can see, it's a T, so it's a so the type parameter is specified when I initialize the data storage, and then I can store this object. It's gonna use newtons of JSON to serialize object into the string, and now the string data it's gonna save to file, because I got a data path here, which is the combination of directory and file name. And the read is gonna be read just checking the file exists. If it doesn't, it returns null. And if it exists, it's gonna read the file, read to string. So I get a text which is stored in that file, and then I use a newtons of JSON to deserialize this file. So I get an object I specified in type parameter when I initialize data storage. And here's a simple example, which you can check it out. It's gonna be there. It's got a comments for you, so it's gonna be even maybe better explained. Okay, so I got it copied, I think. Copy it again for sure. And I'm gonna add a new folder here in my project. I'm gonna call it storage, and here I'm gonna add a new class, and I'm gonna call it data storage. Now I'm gonna paste my data storage class here, and now I have to add dependencies, so I use IntelliSense for this. I'm using for users of JSON. And I got it. Okay. So I got only system.io and newtons of JSON namespaces here required. Okay. So I save this. And now I'm gonna make a new class called Kit Cooldowns database. So I'm gonna make a new folder again. I'm gonna call it databases, or actually database. And I'm gonna add a new class to it. Kit Cooldowns database. Okay. And I'm gonna make it public. And I'm gonna make a constructor for it, which is gonna take the... actually, we don't need a constructor. Or we do, actually. Okay. We're gonna make a new data storage object here. So I'm gonna make a property, data storage. And what I'm gonna save is a list of kit cooldown object, which we created in the previous part. Now I'm using for models. And I'm gonna add a using for storage. Data storage using kits plugin storage, yes. And I'm gonna rename the property to data storage. And I'm gonna make it private. Okay, and now I'm gonna initialize it in constructor. Let me new data storage, and here now I'm gonna need a plugin directory because I want it to be safe in the plugin directory. So I'm gonna have to use the kits plugin or instance.directory. Okay. So now I got a directory, and now I need to specify a file name. So I'm gonna call the file kitcooldowns.json. All right. So I initialize my data storage. So now I'm gonna use it in the method. I'm gonna call public void reload, and it's gonna load all data, and we're gonna cache it in the memory. So I'm gonna execute this method when a plugin starts, so I can get the latest kits cooldown data. And yeah, so I'm gonna load it, and also I'm gonna make a public list of kit cooldown. I'm gonna call it data, and I'm actually gonna make it field, not public but private field. So now, and I'm gonna load it with data is equal to datastorage.read. So like this, and it already knows the directory of the file. It knows because I specified in the constructor, so I don't have to specify it again. Okay, so I'm reading data from the kit cooldowns file in my plugins directory. And now so that's it for reload. I'm gonna add a new method for actually adding a new kit cooldown to data. So I'm gonna make a public void add kit cooldown. It's gonna ask for kit cooldown, parameter name cooldown. Okay. And now I'm gonna add it to my data stored in memory, data add. And I specify the cooldown here. And then I'm gonna save the data, updated data to my data storage. So I'm gonna use data storage.save and data. So now I save the list of my data. One more thing I forgot, the data storage always returns, if we check here, it returns null if the file doesn't exist. So we're gonna make, so if the file doesn't exist yet, we're gonna check for it. If it's equal null, it means it doesn't exist. And we're gonna, if it doesn't exist, so we're gonna initialize this data to new empty list of kit cooldown, and we're gonna save it to the file. So the file is gonna create with an empty JSON object of list of kit cooldown. Okay, like this. So now we make sure data is never null once we load it, and we create a file on the reload method if it doesn't exist. Okay, so we in the add kit cooldown, we're adding the cooldown to first memory data, and then we're saving this data which is in memory to the file. Okay, and another method we need, I'm gonna make a method which will return the, which is gonna return the, actually I'm not gonna make it. Instead of making a method to get all kit cooldowns, I'm gonna just make this field public. And I'm actually gonna turn it into uppercase data, rename it, and I'm gonna make it property with a private set. Okay, so like this. Okay, so I'm gonna save it like this, and now, okay, so that's it for my kit cooldowns database, I think for now. So now we go back to our kits plugin, and we have to create this database because we have to create this object here somewhere. So I'm gonna do this in the load method. I'm gonna make database, and I'm gonna use, actually I'm gonna make first property for it. So I'm gonna make a public property database, actually kits, what was the name? Kit cooldowns database. Okay, I'm adding a using for it, and I'm gonna call it kit cooldowns database, and I'm gonna make it private set. So kit cooldowns database is equal to new kit cooldowns database. Okay, and on load we also want to reload data there. So we use kit cooldowns database dot reload. Nice. Okay, so we got it loaded. So now here we should replace this stuff to use our database now. But actually it's not a good practice to do all the stuff in your plugin instance class. So I'm always creating a new class where I execute this, where I have this kind of stuff. So I actually always create a new folder in my project. I call it services, and I'm gonna add a new class there, and I'm gonna call it cooldowns service. Okay, gonna make it public, and I'm gonna make it Unity component by inheriting from mono behavior, adding a using for Unity engine, and here. Unity component got a free method which it calls. The first one is awake. This one's called when I add a component. I'm gonna show you in a second how to add a component, because we're gonna add it as component to our plugin instance class. It also got a start message, and it also got a onDestroy message, which is called when the object is destroyed. Okay, so basically we got it. We can also use update and fix update methods here, but they're not gonna be useful for this plugin. So okay, so I got a void awake and void start and void onDestroy. And now I'm gonna make, now here, first I'm gonna initialize this service from my kit plugin instance. I'm gonna go back here, and once I initialize database, I'm gonna also add the property first, cooldowns service. I'm gonna add a using for services. Gonna be cooldowns service. And I'm gonna make it private set, and I'm gonna initialize it in load method just after the kit cooldowns database reload. So cooldowns service is gonna be equal to new no, because it's a Unity mono behavior. It's a component, so we add it by, and because Rocket plugin, all Rocket plugins are components, we can add this component to our already existing game object of Rocket plugin. So game object.add component. Now here we specify type for our cooldown service. So type parameter will be cooldown service. Okay, as you can see, it returns the cooldown service instance. And yeah, that's it. And also in the unload, where's unload? Unloads here. We're gonna destroy, which is gonna unload on the plugin unload method. It's gonna unload kit. It's gonna destroy cooldown service. So the void on destroy is gonna be executed here. Van. So we're gonna know when the plugin stops. Okay. So once we get this, I'm now gonna go here. Okay, and now because I'm gonna move all of my cooldown methods from here into this new service I created. So I cut this, and I'm moving this to my cooldown service. I'm gonna drop it on the bottom here. Okay, so as you can see, we also have to move the properties for players, kits cooldowns, and global cooldowns. So I'm gonna go back to my kits plugin instance, and I'm taking these two with me to the cooldown service, and I'm gonna put them at the top. And also I have to initialize them. I have to add it using for kit cooldown, and I'm gonna initialize it from my void awake method. Okay, so same as I did here in the load, I'm now gonna do this in the cooldown service. So players kits cooldown is gonna be equal to new dictionary, and global cooldown is gonna be equal to also new dictionary. Okay, now so we use awake for initializing properties and fields here, and we use start. We're gonna use start, but a bit later I'm gonna show you. Okay. Okay. So now we're gonna upgrade these methods to use our database. So we're gonna know. So we're gonna have a data loaded from the file. So now here to use it, we're gonna use. So the database is a property in the kits instance. So I'm actually gonna make a property for myself, private property, which is gonna return the database for cooldown. So kits cooldown database. I'm gonna add a using for it. It's gonna be a private database property, and it's gonna only return kits plugin.instance.database, kit cooldowns database. Okay, so now you can easily access the kits cooldown database by just using this database property, which we got private here. Okay, that's gonna help us. Now we're gonna start replacing this. So actually, we won't need this anymore, or we have to change it a bit. And also, because we're gonna now save it to the file, we only save the list of kit cooldown, so we have to add a new property to kit cooldown. We're gonna add a player ID here. It's gonna be a string, and it's gonna be a Steam ID. So player ID property. Okay. So we now have to, in the same place we initialize the kit name, we're gonna have to also save the player ID. So player ID is gonna be equal to player ID, which we pass from our command. Okay. Now here we go. Here we notice another thing. Configuration is normal here because the configuration is in the instance of a plugin. So we have to, but because we got a public static instance, we're gonna use kits plugin.instance.configuration, and now we get it. just like in the command, git command we did. Okay, and the next thing we're gonna do, what we were supposed to do. Okay, so we're gonna start with the register cooldown thing. So we create a new cooldown, and we checking if the cooldown already exists in the dictionary. Okay. So now instead of dictionary, we're gonna use our database. It's gonna be called. So we're gonna call, once we create a new kit cooldown here, object, new object instance. We're gonna go and say database add kit cooldown, and we just pass the kit cooldown variable here, and that's it. So we can get rid of this part. I'm gonna delete it, and we're gonna leave the global cooldowns here, because with global cooldowns we can leave saved in memory. We don't care about global cooldown. It's never gonna be that long. So okay. Okay, so we gotta go for the next thing. Because global cooldown is gonna stay like this, because we don't use a database for global cooldowns. We're only saving the specific kit cooldowns. Okay, so has cooldown we got now here, and that's the one we're gonna have to modify a lot. So we're gonna do it like this to check if. So we get a list of cooldowns in the database. This is our data property, database.data we got here. Okay, so we're gonna use this property, and we're gonna find the first or default cooldown. We're gonna use link you, and we're gonna say like this here. If kit X is gonna be kit. If kit dot name is equal to specified kit name, and we're actually gonna use like this. We're gonna copy from here. We're gonna ignore the case for the kit name. Okay, so we look for the kit, which is equal to the specified kit name in the parameter here. And we also need a specific kit of the player. So we check for player ID is gonna have to be equal to player ID. And because we're looking for the active cooldown, I'm gonna make it variable active cooldown. Active cooldown is gonna be, so we need a cooldown which is not expired. So we're gonna check the expiry date, if x.expiry date, and how we do this here actually. So okay, where kit.expiry date is smaller, where it's smaller than datetime.utc now. No, wait, that's actually expired. So we're looking for an unexpired, so active cooldown. So where expiry date is greater than UTC now. Okay, so we get an active cooldown, but if there's no object like that meets this requirement, so if there's no object that has kit name equal to kit name specified in parameter, it doesn't have a, and if it doesn't have a player ID equal to parameter player ID, so it hasn't expired, or has expired, I mean. If it has expired, it's not gonna return it. So we only get an active cooldown, but if we don't get it, if active cooldown is equal to null, then we know this guy has no cooldown, so he can use it. Okay. But if he does, we need to set the time left. So time left, and we're gonna say time left is equal to exactly what we got here. But instead of kit cooldown, we're using now active cooldown variable. So active cooldown dot expiry date minus date time UTC now It's gonna be a time left. And we don't have to do this check anymore because we do that check basically here. So we can just return true. Okay, and now we get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. We got it made simpler and we got it made better because it saves to JSON now. Okay, so now another thing we have to do, as you can see, we get no references for this method because we move it from plugin instance method, and before we were using the instance of the plugin to get this method in our command. So we're gonna have to go to the kit command, and here instead of kit.instance, we're gonna use kit.instance.database. Kit cooldowns the service. We're gonna use the service cooldown service. And we're gonna check has global cooldown. Then we're gonna add this cooldown service here too, and also here. Okay, so we got it done. I'm gonna have a quick look if everything's okay. Looks good to me here. What else? Now check out database for sure. Kit cooldowns database. It looks good to me too. Okay. We're gonna save it to kit cooldowns JSON file. Okay, so now I'm gonna update version of my plugin to 1.0.4, and I'm gonna build it and upload to my server and try it out if it works. So I'm updating it. I'll split the screen like this and go to my test server file manager. I'm going to replace the plugin, and we don't have to wipe the configuration neither translations because we didn't touch them. They are still the same. We only did the JSON saving thing. Okay, so I uploaded the latest version here. Now I'm gonna restart the server. So as you can see, the version's updated. This plugin has been loaded. And now we're gonna check if we got a JSON data file here now. We should have it. Yes, we got a kit cooldowns.json now in our plugins directory. I'm gonna open it. Yes, it's an empty because we didn't use any kit now. I'm gonna join the server and use some kit. We're gonna check if this file is changed, and we're gonna then restart the server. I'm gonna join again, and I'm gonna see if the cooldown is still there. Okay, before I do this, I'm gonna change the cooldown to 900 seconds. I'm gonna be sure it won't expire in this time. Or actually, I'm gonna leave it to 500. It's gonna be enough. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna restart the server to apply config, and I start my Unturned, join the server, and I get back to you. Okay, so I join my server, and I'm gonna use a kit default now. I received the kit default. Now I'm gonna check if the cooldown was saved to the JSON file. Yes, it's saved. It saved the player ID, it saved the kit name, and it saved the expiry date. Okay, and now I'm gonna make sure cooldown still works. So if I type in kit default, it says I have 7 seconds global cooldown. So we moved our methods from instance of the plugin to the service without mistakes. So I'm gonna try again now to see the specific kit cooldown, kit default. It says you have to wait 400, 600 seconds. So yeah, we got a cooldown. So now I'm gonna rejoin and gonna see if I'm gonna still have this cooldown. Actually, I mean, I'm gonna restart the server. So I will start the server. It's gonna load the cooldowns. I'm gonna join and check if the cooldown is still there even though the restart happened. Okay. Okay, so the server is up again. It loaded the plugin without any errors, so loading JSON data works. The JSON data is still there. Now I'm gonna join the server. And I try to use my kit default. Yeah, and it says you have to wait 345 seconds, so the cooldown is still there. So, because we save it to file, after restart we still got it. We loaded it up on the plugin load, so we loaded it up here. So all data from here, and we now know that the player has used this cooldown, and the expiry date is on that specific date. Okay, so that's it. See you in the next one.